It's a little worse for wear after many years of neglect, but it's still one of Newcastle's most impressive buildings due to its architectural extravagance. Surprisingly, the structure is relatively unknown, tucked away in Mayfield East, overlooking the now deserted steelworks site. It was the main administration building for BHP, and the grand old structure is now a monument to the steelworks empire, with its opulent timberwork and 8,000 square metres of floor space.
This was the main administration centre for the BHP, so this was all of their senior management as well as a number of their engineers, and holds a great deal of history for the BHP itself.
The 89-year-old building has been empty for 3 years but will soon be revitalised, with several local businesses moving in.
It's a real link in business in particular between the old business history, the old business of Newcastle, and the new business, because this will play a central role in the whole redevelopment of this site.
Among the new tenants is the Hunter Business Chamber, and with much of the original furniture and fittings remaining, each day at work will be somewhat of a history lesson. Jane Goldsmith, NBN News. The public perception is that hunter tourism is booming, but it seems that's not the case. The Hunter Regional Tourism Plan has revealed that the number of domestic visitors to the Hunter has remained stagnant for the last 4 years. In the year 2000, 1.9 million people from New South Wales visited the Hunter for one night or more. Surprisingly, 3 years later that's dropped slightly to 1.8 million.
This report won't come as any surprise to the industry itself, which for a number of years now has been, I guess, not struggling, but certainly feeling the pinch when it comes to attracting increased visitation.
The report suggests the region needs to take a fresh approach to marketing to increase tourist numbers. The Hunter Regional Tourism Organisation says that includes dividing the Hunter region into 5 zones to promote the large range of destinations we offer.
Rather than marketing under a generic Hunter banner, we're going to really focus on unique destinations, and for our region they are the Upper Hunter, the Wine Country, Barrington Tops, Lake Macquarie and Newcastle.
Jane Goldsmith, NBN News.
Generates fear in homeowners, with flames licking dangerously close to their properties. But there was no need for panic this morning, with our fire service carrying out what could prove to be one of its most valuable tasks this year. Fire crews say that with conditions similar to those leading up to the devastating 2001 bushfires, hazard reduction burns are being conducted to reduce potential disaster.
We believe the signs are there for a bad summer. We've got very high fuel loads built up around, particularly around some of the urban areas.
That's where the role of property owners becomes crucial. Once again, they're being encouraged to clear leaves from gutters as well as potential fuel from around their homes.
It does make a difference. When you start to get a very intense fire and you get spot overs, it doesn't take much for them to land in grass or dead leaves and things like that, and you find that you've got fires burning around their houses.
Inspector Smith also encourages mowing a 3 to 4 metre strip along back fence lines to act as a fire barrier and a path for emergency vehicles. Colleen West, NBN News. Award for Engineering Excellence in Northern New South Wales for the construction of 2 bridges over the Karua River. The 800-metre structures were formed in segments before being launched over piers. Other award winners include the CSIRO and Cox Richardson for the CSIRO Energy Centre in Newcastle.
This was meant to be the next big step for Chad Bennett, a boxer looking to rise up the ranks of the world's strongest boxing organisation, the IBF. Giving up 9 years to his Thai opponent, Pele Sithsopa, it was the vacant Pan-Pacific welterweight belt they both were chasing, the holder to break into the world top 10. Experience was the key early, and the 31-year-old Newcastle fighter worked the Thai boxer around in a confident start. The man they call Hollywood doing all the right things to get his name up in lights. He didn't let up in the second, but just 55 seconds in and a knock that provided more than just a headache. An accidental clash splitting Bennett above the eye. Leaving the doctor with little choice but to call it off. Bennett still hopes to get another shot at the IBF belt, but will now continue preparations for a hometown defence of the World WBF crown, a fight scheduled for October 15.
This is one of Lake Macquarie's 16 bed and breakfasts, a 4.5-star B&B which some have claimed is not up to scratch. The remarks in a draft hunter tourism report were later apologised for and removed from the final draft.
It must have been a comment by somebody who was uninformed and just wanted to make a statement, and that was a wrong statement.
I don't think it will damage us. I think the people who have arrived at that conclusion have acknowledged that it was wrong.
In better news for Lake Macquarie, visitor numbers have increased by 21% over the past 2 years, bucking an otherwise alarming trend causing concern within the hunter tourism industry. It's certainly been one of those for the family and friends of Matthew Helm, the hunter's best individual performer.
Like at 5 o'clock this morning, he had his great school friends turned up at home here with a bottle of ouzo and a Cuban cigar, and it was just the greatest feeling.
Matthew's dad Glenn made a deal with his son before he left for Athens, and it seems to have worked.
Promised him $1,000 a medal. So I'm 2,000 down, doesn't matter.
More silver this morning for hunter-based basketballer Susie Batkovic. Just wanting to board the plane for Athens, she's now coming back with an Olympic medal. To mark the hunters' contribution to these Olympic and upcoming Paralympic Games, a civic reception will be held for local athletes at Newcastle City Hall later this year. Adam McKilrick, NBN News.
He's the last Bob standing, and as he headed for the campaign trail today, Bob Baldwin had his sights firmly set on a historic second consecutive term as member for Paterson.
Well, that's up to the people of Paterson. We've laid out a whole deal of work that we've done for the people in this region, but there's a lot more to be done.
The people of Paterson have been ruthless players of marginal seat politics, changing MP 4 times since 1993. Giovanna Kazari represents Labor this time after former ALP member Bob Horn was voted out in 2001, and she admits stepping into big shoes.
In a lot of ways, yes, but I'm a totally different person, and I feel that I'm going to be offering a very fresh approach.
But Paterson will be familiar over the next 40 days.
It's going to be a very tough battle. The battle for Paterson has always been tough. But we'll work hard, we'll represent the people, and we'll fight on the issues that are put up.
Well, I think it's always going to be a tough campaign, and I'm looking forward to a tough campaign because I think anything that is worthwhile is worth fighting hard for.
Also fighting hard, Hunter MP and Labor's mining, energy and forestry spokesman Joel Fitzgibbon, who could become the region's first federal minister in a decade.
But yeah, it would be fantastic to be a minister in a Latham Labor government, to give the region representation at the highest levels of government, and yeah, that's one of my ambitions, and I'll keep my fingers crossed.
Gary Blair, NBN News. If you thought of Singleton as a working-class meat and three-veg kind of place, well, Barnett's Meats is where the town's cosmopolitan taste experience begins. Their smoked cheese Kransky, made using a special recipe, has just been rewarded with gold at the Royal Sydney Fine Food Show.
It's taken us about 5 years to develop it, and we've got it pretty right now, we think, yeah.
And the awarded products, like the silver medal winning cured ham, aren't just for show. They're tantalising the taste buds of Singletonians every day.
Oh, that's right, yeah, they come in, they'll taste it, then they come back and they buy it then.
Graham, son Colin and their employees have put their products to the competitive test for 8 years now, and after receiving a total of 5 medals, including gold, silver and bronze, there's no doubt about their determination to continue taking on the nation's leading gourmet food producers at the Sydney show.
Oh yes, we'll have to keep them honest down there, I suppose. Yeah, we'll definitely go back.
In all, the Hunter collected 14 medals at the Fine Food Show, Camelot Lavender Farm winning gold for their raspberry vinegar, while 2 silver and 4 bronze went to Red Ned's Pie Bar at Nelson Bay. Gary Blair, NBN News.
Among the people honoured at last night's ceremony were Joan Bell for her support of senior citizens and Jackie Arnold for her contribution to surf lifesaving. Kay Duffy was awarded the City of Newcastle Medal for 3 decades of community service, while Dr Bill Bowmore was made a Freeman of the City for 50 years as the city's unofficial patron of the arts.
Corrective Services and police mounted a full-scale search for the 2 men, which included the use of tracker dogs just after 9 this morning. The pair had been working in a minimum security section of Cessnock Corrective Centre when they were noticed missing during a routine head count. Prison officers rushed to guard the western perimeter of the jail after a hole was discovered in a chain wire fence. It's believed the wanted men fled into bushland that separates the prison from neighbouring vineyards before making good their escape. Corrective Services says 30-year-old Wayne Lee Garland was halfway through a 7-year sentence for armed robbery, while 24-year-old Gregory Michael Elliott was due for release in February after serving 12 months for car stealing. The men have similar descriptions. Wayne Garland is 170 centimetres tall, medium build, weighs 70 kilograms and has brown hair and eyes. Gregory Elliott is 170 centimetres tall, medium build with brown hair and blue eyes. The escape of Garland and Elliott comes almost 2 years to the day since the last prisoner fled from the Cessnock Corrective Centre. On that occasion, the escapee spent 2 days on the run before being recaptured. Gary Blair, NBN News. Police say a man driving a Ford Falcon appears to have lost control of the vehicle and crossed to the wrong side of the New England highway before hitting an oncoming truck at Harper's Hill between Lochinvar and Greta. Wreckage from the impact was strewn over a large area and the driver of the car was trapped until he could be released by ambulance, paramedics and rescue officers. The 34-year-old Singleton man suffered head injuries in the accident and was rushed by a rescue helicopter to Newcastle's John Hunter Hospital. A rusting frame is all that's left of the French foremaster Adolphe. The remains of the once proud ship still lie where it foundered on the Oyster Bank at the mouth of Newcastle Harbour on September 30th, 1904. The wreck is now part of the Stockton breakwater that was constructed over the bones of several sunken ships. Now, 100 years later, the ship's brass bell has been found.
There was a rumour that it was in New Zealand. We went looking, searching New Zealand to see if it was there, and we discovered that Dennis and Margaret Riddell had the bell on their farm.
The couple took possession of the bell when they bought a property in New Zealand, but are unaware how it made it across the Tasman in the first place. They've now brought it to Newcastle for the Adolphe's centenary commemorations later in the month.
I was quite surprised and very pleased that I had actually found where the bell had come from.
Of the more than 200 ships that were wrecked off Newcastle Harbour, the Adolphe is one of the greatest rescue tales, with 32 crew being saved by the men of the harbour lifeboat Victoria. Paul Lobb, NBN News.
It seems western suburbs are always around this time of year, but for a trio, it'll be their last as players. Along with outgoing captain coach Troy Fletcher, Scott Asmus and Andrew Weir will also hang up the boots after Sunday's game.
Having a couple of blokes retiring from football this year obviously adds a bit more emphasis to the game, but I'm sure we'll be prepared come Sunday.
Fletcher has a few selection headaches too, with Todd Bates and Todd Pavlo both available after injury ruled them out of their last game. It's belief that the Northern Blues are riding on after their solid end-of-season form, which includes major semi-final success over the Rosellas.
Well, the monkeys off our back were beating Lakes and West in the previous 2 weeks, where during the year we couldn't get near the both of them.
Stepping down at the end of the season, Walsh wouldn't mind a fairy tale finish himself.
It's basically been the West Lake show for the last 10 years or whatever, so Cessnock done it last year and I'd like to think the Northern Blues can do it this year.
Western will start as favourites and deservedly so. They won the minor premiership, boast the coach, rookie and player of the year, along with a potent attacking lineup.
If Broadmeadow's going to win it, they're going to have to play above themselves to beat us.
You could hardly argue with them, but Broadmeadow coach Damien Smith knows just how hard grand finals are to win. 2 late goals, 1 in extra time, sunk them in the big one last year.
It really hurt us last year, losing the final few minutes in extra time to Edgeworth. So we really, it's at our home ground, so we really want to dig deep and win this one.
If they are, they must keep a lid on Player of the Year, Nigerian Chimawabi Nawagozi, who was joint leading scorer this year, along with Magic Zone Ricky Metcalf.
People like that are X factors, you know. If you don't use them, why play them, you know? So we're going out to win the game. We're not going for a penalty shootout.
The match will kick off at the earlier time of 2 o'clock at Broadmeadow's home ground, Wanderers Oval. He's an imposing figure, but even a big man like Clayton Shields gets worried when health problems centre on the heart.
Really, really frightening. I mean, just not knowing, what's going to happen when, you feel your heart fluttering like that. It definitely scares you.
He'll wave goodbye for good tomorrow after doctors cleared him to return home, but were unable to fully diagnose the problem.
So right now, just the main concern for me is just getting healthy.
On the ice, and the Newcastle North Stars are hoping to make it back-to-back national titles this weekend on the Central Coast. Suffering just 1 loss all season, the North Stars will start as favourites in their semi-final clash tomorrow against Adelaide, with the winner to advance to the decider on Sunday. And while our Olympians arrived home this week, many of our Paralympians left today, including the Hunter's own AIS-based star Heath Francis. Sporting a new-look hairdo, the track sprinter flew out to Germany for more training ahead of the Games later this month. The 22-year-old hoping to emulate his medal haul in Sydney 4 years ago, which included 3 gold and 1 silver.
There were no wardrobe malfunctions today as Jennifer Hawkins appeared before a delighted home crowd in Newcastle. Thousands turned out to see the Holmesville girl who's become a star on the world stage. The national media assembled in Newcastle as the 20-year-old beauty attended a range of civic functions before giving a rare media conference where she revealed how much she'd been looking forward to returning home for a visit.
Oh, I've been so excited. You can ask all the Miss Universe organisation. They're like, can you just stop talking about it? I've just, for 4 months, I'm going home in this amount of time. I'll be here, I'll be going out, going to the Knights game. And I'm just ecstatic to be back and to have all these people here supporting me, and it's great.
And of course, there were questions about last night's saucy mishap on the catwalk.
I just handled it the way that it come natural. I mean, I didn't know what to do. I don't think anyone knows what to do in that situation, and when I was on stage, the first thing that just went through my mind, I'm just like, oh my God, what are people going to say tomorrow? And that's the one thing, today people have been really good about it.
And what did you think of that life-size tribute at the Holmesville pub?
I drove past it. That's amazing. I'm just like, oh my God, there's a big sign and everything, and I went and met the pub owner, and it's quite funny actually.
This is the latest chapter in the fight to have 3 mature date palms return to their lakeside reserve at Swansea. A protest rally today attracted a very vocal crowd, along with police, council and state representatives. It's believed the palms, which were stripped from the ground in broad daylight, are now basking in the warmer climates of Queensland in a housing development next to the Toowoomba police station. Police have interviewed a suspect in Nowra, but no charges have been laid, sparking anger and frustration. They're now demanding the trees be returned.
Whether they're valuable or not, we don't believe that people can come here and take trees or shrubs out of the community.
And if you think this is the last you'll hear of the issue, you're mistaken, with Mr Castles vowing to continue the fight. She may not have been there in person, but Miss Universe Jennifer Hawkins was certainly there in spirit.
Jen was in last night, and she spent about an hour with us last night.
A street parade marked the 100th birthday of the Holmesville Hotel, which once played the role of a magistrate's court and continues to be a popular drinking hole for locals. There are even rumours a ghost has found a home in the pub.
Doors open and close, and you hear a lot of creaking going on through the hallways of a night.
Today's patrons were a little easier to see, or should we say, hard to miss. And these littlies got a taste of what it's like to be in the spotlight, something their very own Miss Universe is getting used to. Colleen West, NBN News.
You couldn't blame the Pirates for feeling tired before they even tipped off last night. After a hectic training schedule, the team endured a full day's travel by road to Grafton just to make the game. But there's method in coach Adrian Hurley's madness. The schedule is all part of the coach's toughening up process, designed to place his team under the pressures of playing on the road. Last year's beaten grand finalists, West Sydney, proved hard enough, with the Razorbacks chalking up an early lead that they never relinquished. A former Grafton Viking star, Brad Davidson, put in a solid effort for his new club, but the Pirates weren't able to bridge the gap, going down 123 to 104.
What you're really trying to find out is the who can play, what things work for you, what don't work, how fit you are, and the progress of the team so far.
They play Brisbane tomorrow. Meanwhile, in netball, Hunter Jaegers defender Alison Tucker has been named the club's Players' Player overnight. Judged on by teammates, the award is the top gong for the club, which came equal fifth in its first ever National League season.
Tucked in behind the New England Highway west of Maitland, Windella Downs was the focus of emergency services at around 10 o'clock last night. Senior Constables Tim Brown and Brad Muddle and Constable Chris Fowler were among the first to arrive, rescuing a couple and two of their children from a burning house before doubling back. It's expected they'll be nominated for Bravery Awards.
They actually rented the home again and located the 5-year-old boy curled up on the floor in a bedroom at the rear of the house.
He's been transferred to Westmead Children's Hospital suffering from serious airway burns, while the other two boys were taken to Maitland, as were the police officers involved in their rescue. The boys' parents were taken to John Hunter Hospital. The 41-year-old man has since been transferred for specialist treatment.
The father had received 60% burns to his head, chest and arms, and yes, he has been transferred to Sydney for further care this afternoon.
The fire caused extensive internal damage. It's unclear how it started. Police say a member of the public was inside the house just before the rescue, however left a short time later. Investigators hope that person will make themselves known to police to help with their inquiries. Adam McKilrick, NBN News.
They came in their droves to Wollongong, hundreds of cleaners striking over new multi-year contracts to clean schools and other public buildings, contracts which they say threaten job security.
You cannot cut back anymore, that's it. They just can't cut back. If they want clean schools, that's it.
Some had travelled for hours to have their voices heard, but when Premier Carr arrived, it was as if the protesters weren't even there. Their action, or lack thereof, caused the closure of at least one school today. While senior classes were unaffected, Year 7 to 10 students at Newcastle High School were sent home with an urgent note yesterday afternoon, saying it was necessary to cancel classes until the end of the week because it was unable to guarantee toilets would be cleaned and rubbish removed.
And I think it is an important health issue. I don't think they should be playing around with kids. They can't, especially the senior kids who can't afford to get sick between now and the HSC.
The Principal and the Department of Education refused to talk to us on camera today, but we're told arrangements have been made for a contractor to clean all state schools to an OH&S acceptable standard daily during the strike, including Newcastle High. Late this afternoon, the school reversed its decision. Classes will resume as normal for all Newcastle High students tomorrow. And the cleaners say they'll continue to strike until midnight Friday because the state government's written assurances to the union that all cleaners will be given an offer of employment is simply not good enough. Jessica Phillis, NBN News.
The ADI designed and built amphibious watercraft has provided a different sight to the usual maritime traffic on Newcastle Harbour during the past week. However, its real purpose in life was put on display today at Horseshoe Beach when ADI and the Australian Army practiced beach landings as part of sea trials for the vessel. It may be a white carpet, but the beach matting provided a portable road across the sand for the Army to take one of its tabletop Mack trucks for a brief harbour voyage. And that's not all the watercraft can carry. Even with a Land Rover, there's still plenty of deck space to accommodate a battalion-sized group of soldiers, more equipment and stores. ADI will show off the new generation watercraft built under a $32 million contract for the Australian Defence Force at the Euro Naval Exhibition in Paris next month. The 6 watercraft project is due for completion in July next year. They'll be carried on the warships Kanimbla and Manoora and used for Army operations in Northern Australia and the South Pacific. Gary Blair, NBN News. While a court challenge may have delayed building the state government-approved initial stage of the Lee Wharf development, the project's consortium is pushing ahead. Newcastle councillors have been told there will be a change to one approved building, with 2 storeys being added, although it remains within height controls for the area. New Lee Wharf proposals include another residential building, plus the refurbishment and reuse of the Western Cargo Shed as a restaurant and bar, complete with refurbished waterfront deck. The consortium's Keith Stronach satisfied with the councillor's reaction.
We were asked a lot of questions, but all of them were the right, interesting questions, and we felt we answered them as best we could. And I thought that it was quite a good briefing.
Meanwhile, the Newcastle Cruising Yacht Club development will be the latest subject of a dissenting report from Council to the state government. The proposal for a 3-storey licensed club complex, deemed by the council to be 1.5 metres too high and obscures a minor view corridor.
It's a nonsense. It's an absolute nonsense. 1.5 metres in this part of the world where there's no shadow affecting personal property, there's no loss of view.
There have been no public objections to the development, with the final say in the hands of the government. Gary Blair, NBN News.
There's no prizes for guessing when exactly Dustin Cooper impressed the Newcastle Knights. In round 12, playing for the Melbourne Storm, 23-year-old Cooper showed his skill in the air and pace across the ground, running 80 metres to set up a memorable Billy Slater try.
You're obviously looking for big people that can run and that can catch the football, and he can certainly do both of those things.
At 194 centimetres, or 6'5", and 100 kilograms, he's among the game's giant wingers and has shown plenty of potential in his 17 top-grade games.
But Dustin Cooper, he is a big winger, and for a big man, he's got plenty of pace.
With the Knights nearing the salary cap limit for its top 25 players, Cooper has been signed among the second-tier recruits.
Yeah, so we'll get it structured so that he can still probably train with us full-time, but he'll have an opportunity to play some first grade at our club next year.
Meantime, the Knights' home ground has changed a little since fans last saw it just 5 days ago. The stadium upgrade has continued, with the top tier of the Eastern Grandstand taking shape this week. The ground capacity will increase by 5,000 people to cater for 27,000 fans next season.
Since 1880, the impressive Victorian Italian-designed Woodlands mansion has commanded an imposing presence over Newcastle from the hill. The building also boasts enormous rooms and spectacular views, which the latest owners, the Charles family, believe lend itself perfectly to a function centre.
It is such an outstanding building that it'd be really wonderful to open it up for the public to use for their functions, and so that everybody can enjoy this building.
Loris Charles says the heritage value of the building will not be harmed, the only alteration returning the ballroom to its former glory by removing a kitchen. But some neighbours aren't so keen on the idea. They're concerned about late-night noise, increased traffic and a lack of parking in the street. They say a wedding reception centre isn't in keeping with the street's residential zoning.
The LEP, the Local Environmental Plan, zoned this area Urban 2B, which is strictly residential, and that prohibits any sort of development as has been proposed in this area.
But the owners are hoping council may overlook that, as the revenue will fund the ongoing maintenance of the state heritage listed building.
Given the special incentive provisions of the LEP relating to heritage, it actually encourages this type of use to ensure that the building will continue as a beautiful building for now and into the future.
Jane Goldsmith, NBN News.
The general store and restaurant still look the same for the time being, but out in the camping area, luxury villas are replacing traditional campsites.
There will be a significant difference, yeah, but we've tried to obviously retain the character that existed previously, but the introduction of some four-star villas will certainly be the most obvious change.
Now known as Myall Shores Ecotourism Resort, the park has been leased from the National Parks and Wildlife Service. Today, the new conference centre was being trucked in. A stay in one of these foreshore villas will cost you up to $350 a night during the summer holidays.
We'll have 61 villas and 90 of the original bungalows and 47 caravan and camping sites. So that's the sum total. We've introduced also a freeform swimming pool, and we'll be doing some alterations to Legs Restaurant, which is in the former building.
It's one of a growing number of East Coast caravan and camping grounds going upmarket in a bid to attract more cashed-up Sydney-siders. Paul Lobb, NBN News.
Whenever you get a cortisone injection, you need to wait at least 1 week. Give yourself a 1 week break with no running around, that kind of thing. So it's a good time to get it done now in the pre-season when it doesn't really matter if you miss games.
He's delivered sermons, supported and cared for the people of the Anglican Diocese of Newcastle for more than 11 years. But the reign as Bishop of Newcastle will soon draw to an end as Roger Herf takes up the distinguished position of Archbishop of Perth next year. And he says it will be tough leaving his beloved Newcastle.
But it has been marvellous. I mean, the way the people have responded, the hospitality, the generosity of people, and the directness. I mean, people meet you in the street, if they don't agree with something you've said, they're straight on, you know. And that's the sort of thing I like, that type of engagement with people.
Bishop Herft was born and educated in Sri Lanka and became Bishop of Waikato in New Zealand before moving to Newcastle in 1992. Since then, he set up the groundbreaking Two Bishops Trust with Catholic Bishop Michael Malone, bridging the two denominations and helping the unemployed. Roger Herft has also been touted as the future Archbishop of Canterbury, but he denies he's working his way up the ladder.
I mean, that type of speculation just doesn't get you anywhere. And I don't see ministry as climbing ladders. At the end of the day, people really look at ministry in terms of how you serve them, how you love them, how you care for them. And how
Jane Goldsmith, NBN News.
Athens silver and bronze medalist Matt Helm was taking a plunge of a different kind today, the Adamstown diver managing to keep his head above water.
The first bet that I ever put down, I won my money back.
The pint-sized powerhouse was joined by Athens teammate Martin Kelly, the judo competitor from Maitland still experiencing that Olympic hangover.
It's a very good way to relax, and just coming here and seeing the horses race live is quite amazing.
The day was amazing too for jockey Glenn Boss, his Newcastle campaign now complete.
Yeah, I've never won the Spring Stakes. I've won pretty well every other race here, but to win the Spring Stakes we go was very good.
Even better for the punters, the trifecta returning a shade over $1,000. In the feature, County Tyrone was the pride of Broadmeadow and went on to finish third, handing Chris Lees his second podium finish in the Group 3 event. Another Warrior charging like one, returning $12.80 for the win, making for one healthy trifecta. The Alan Bailey trained stayer also setting a new course record over 2,300 metres.
So he put himself into the race coming to the corner, and it's just a matter of whether he could outstay him, which he did.
Adam McIlrick, NBN News.
Finishing joint winner of the Newcastle Union's top gong, the Anderson Medal, many believe Greg Thompson holds the key to Wanderers' chances tomorrow, and with that comes plenty of heat.
Ready to target, especially, they're 5'8", without a doubt.
With the battle line firmly drawn, Wanderers say don't cross it in trying to stop their man.
Well, if we're going to shut him down, let's make sure we do it, I suppose, within the laws of the game.
Thompson is no stranger to being targeted, but his coach believes it's a plan with obvious flaws.
If they keep keeping their eye on one player, they might find they might get punished elsewhere. So.
Easts, though, aren't about to shy away from a style of game that saw them win the minor premiership and storm into the grand final.
They love the physical stuff. We're a big side, very mobile side, and the tougher the game, the more they love it. So.
Their ability to score fast is also a highlight, and it helped them topple Wanderers in both encounters this season. But the two Blues believe they've got the game plan to bring home the silverware.
Patience, composure. You've got to not panic no matter what's going on.
The game kicking off at the later time of 4 o'clock tomorrow afternoon at the Garden Sporting Complex.
In the high-stress environment of a hospital emergency department, there's a very important person who can become a little lost.
Although our core business is to look after patients, sometimes we tend not to view it through the patient's eyes.
That's where Maggie comes in. She's a fictitious patient and the face of Hunter Health's modern philosophy on care.
We put ourselves in the footsteps of the patient, we walk ourselves through the system and say, is this the right kind of care?
She may be make-believe, but Maggie has had a real influence at the John Hunter, triggering simple improvements like the colour coding of uniforms.
Nurses now dress in blue scrubs, doctors in green and clerical staff in maroon.
There have been other changes like locating X-ray equipment within the department and a chute system to send blood quickly to pathology, improving completion times.
Most non-admitted patients come in here and out within 2 hours now, and that was unheard of before.
Patient satisfaction ratings have also increased markedly. The Maggie program is being rolled out Hunter-wide. Natasha Bayersdorf, NBN News.
Parkinson was on fire in the solid 6 to 8 foot waves at Trestles in California. The world number 4 shot to the lead of the 35-minute final with a classic right-hander that saw him pull off a big tail slide and an impressive aerial manoeuvre, scoring 8 points from the judges. Kelly Slater earlier scored an 8.4 ride, but then chose a series of lower-scoring left-handers. Parkinson unaware of his win until coming ashore.
I didn't know until the boys were on the beach. I looked up and I seen Stuart Potts gave me the nod like when the score come through, and I just went.
Joel is now breathing down Slater's neck for the third ranking, behind Americans CJ Hobgood and Andy Irons. The Gold Coast boy, who says his baby daughter Evie has become his good luck charm, is now a real chance of a world crown.
With Andy going out early here, and I guess with Kelly and CJ, especially the way they go surfing, I mean, I think it could be interesting coming into towards the end of the season.
Parkinson takes home a winner's cheque of $40,000.
"160 kilometres sounds like a comfortable Sunday drive, but on the saddle of a road bike, in today's temperatures, it was a whole different story. About 100 k's after greeting the starter in Hornsby, Singleton's Ben Brooks led the breakaway, and 6 riders joined him. As the main peloton chased, it peeled into 2, with a pack trying to hunt down the leaders, including Trent Wilson, who was searching for a winning hat-trick. The lead group was having none of it though. Beaten in last week's Grafton to Inverell road race, Jorge Libinati kept on the pace. But in a rare luxury up front, New South Wales Institute of Sport team riders Russell Van Hoot and David Tanner worked in tandem. But it was Brooks who was the one to catch. He made another break, 20 kilometres from home. Only 2 went with him this time, and as they reached the final sprint for home, only Brooks' all-leading Australian road racer Robert McLaughlin could win it. The 25-year-old beating an old idol to win.
He had about 10 years off, and I remember him from when I was a kid, like watching him, and he's been racing back for 2 years now, and in the guy's an ox. He's so strong, so I was pretty nervous about having him there at the end, so I was happy when I got over top of him.